Hello and welcome to the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud, indeed the Comic Coach, who is wearing yellow. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see it's my yellow snowboarding jumper, because the UK is now freezing. So it is time to bring out the big guns. And I hope that you've had a really cracking week. And I hope that you've been delivering impact in whatever way that means to you. And today, lovely listeners of the Comic Coach podcast, I'm very excited because I've got a very lovely woman. She's sitting there smiling in quite possibly one of the dullest meeting rooms, but she is so far from dull, I can't begin to tell you. I'm very pleased because I've got the lovely hello, lovely soul. How are you?
Hello, well, that was a lead up. I can't disappoint now, can I?
Yeah, no pressure. It's fine. You're wearing leopard print.
Boring for half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that's the way to definitely, and I think everybody that I invite, it's definitely because they are very boring individuals.
Exactly. That's what we
Nothing
like.
to say. Yeah, exactly. How's your week been? Have you been all right?
My week. What day is it? I'm confused.
Today is Thursday.
It's Thursday, so we're nearly at the end of the week. Do you know what? This week has been lovely because I'm like you. I sort of travel around a lot to earn my crust. And I've had a couple of weeks where I literally haven't known what end of the world I'm at, and certainly not what end of the week I'm at. This week has been lovely because I've had 3 days at my desk, mostly, a few meetings, but at my desk, developing stuff, like looking at the future and planning for the future and putting things in place for the future. So I actually couldn't sleep last night because I was so excited about stuff that's coming. That's what the week has been like.
Isn't that so delicious when you're like, oh, I've had some time and I've actually been able to put some time into thinking, and then you're like, oh my gosh, my life, I'm in charge. This is amazing. It's so good,
fun?
right?
Isn't it fun? So it's been brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Good. I'm very pleased. And as regular listeners will know, I'm a massive advocate for making sure that you put time in your diary to actually think about what you want to be doing in the future, because otherwise time goes by and then you're just busy being busy, and then you can't create, you can't shift, and then you can't, I guess, really make really good choices for where you are in your own life, So I massively applaud you both. Actually, for those of you watching, I am actually clapping. It's very good. It's very good. And in yellow, the clapping comedy, the comedy soul in yellow today. Now, time to get serious.
Serious? Okay. My God. There was a serious shift of mood there. Anyway.
I know. This is what we can do, right? With the power of our voice. We can just change the ambience.
I'm now scared. I wasn't
Yes, rightly so.
Yes,
you should be. Absolutely. It's like that. What's happened? I thought this was going to be just a nice line. Okay. Now, everybody knows that I have 6 questions all around impact that I like to ask all of my fabulous guests. Are you ready for the question time?
Hit me with it. Okay, I need to sing as well, or is that your job?
You can sing. You can. I mean, this is the brilliant thing about being the Comic Coach podcast. Basically, we can do whatever we like. It's fine. There aren't any rules.
Your podcast, your rules. Go for it.
Exactly. Which, because it's my brain, they change all the time anyway. So it's fine. It's fine. Okay. Question number 1. I mean, if you want a dinger, that's fine. But I think you can just answer it. Who has had the greatest impact in your life?
Okay, so confession, I did actually think about these in advance rather than it being spur of the moment. And this one, thinking about it over a period of time, is gorgeous because you start to remember people who have had an influence on you. Not all of them the time for the good, although even that is long-term for the good because it helps you make choices. And in terms of other people, I think what I pinned it down to is people who came before me, whose bravery I want to continue in my own way. That was for people. And then, and this is very on brand, and apologies, but I am going to have to say this, is now that I have super got my head around my values.
I love that. And in order for that to be about you, what shifted for you?
What, the second piece, the values piece?
Yeah.
I mean, I at risk of sounding like I'm selling my product here, but unfortunately, it's only my product because I'm really into it and really excited by it. For me, the shift from having a sort of intuitive sense of what I believe to be right to actually getting it into words and the words that sort of trip out of my mouth quite comfortably rather than tricky, sticky words that I can't pronounce. That has been, for me, quite extraordinary, because there is not a situation I have been in that has been tricky since that point where I haven't eventually remembered I have them. Even me, I have to remember that they're there and gone, okay, I'm just going to run through them. Okay, I did make the right choice there, or this is the choice I'm going to make, or no, I did the right thing there. You know, there's times where you have doubt about what you're going to do or doubt about what you have done. And for me, they are a shorthand, a little sort of glance off point that helps me evaluate whether I'm living as I would like to be living.
I love that. And I think there's something really powerful about acknowledging that, you know, we're the only person that's going to know us for our whole life, right? And I think one of the things, and I actually spoke about in my last One Woman show, and it was that thing of, if you don't have courage to look at who you are, and you have to take that moment to really look at yourself in the mirror and go, who is Em? How am I showing up in the world? And what it sounds like is, through your own work on yourself, that has now enabled you. Yes, you've got the business and you're flying and you're helping other people doing it. But the first thing, which is why it's impacted you so much, is that actually you had to allow yourself to have the courage to look in the mirror and go, okay, how do I find these values, these things that really matter to me? And then that is the way that you then operate and see the world, you know?
Yes,
and that takes courage, right?
It does. And you have to be willing to dip into things that you don't like about yourself. So in the bit of morning I've had before coming in to chat to you, I've been working on a masterclass that I'm doing for a senior leadership team in a charity. And one of the exercises I'm going to take them through, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it works for them, is what are values and what are beliefs. And this is an area I'm super interested in. So if you boil it down to a very, very basic level, we are formed through our circumstances, through the people around us, through things that have happened to us in life. And what they tend to do is create beliefs, some of which are fabulous and are super, super helpful and wonderful. And there are some things which I know come from life before I even remember it, but are from other people, not from me, that I hold to because I love them. But my God, there's a hell of a lot of them that are limiting. I mean, limiting beliefs is a thing. And the key to this, and I love it when I first start working with people on what their personal values are, because if you ask them for words, incidentally, I tend to avoid that as the first step. But if you do end up talking about words, they will often pull out the vocabulary of beliefs. And then when you go, that's really interesting, where does that come from? So, for example, there's one which is hard work. And often it's more likely male than female who will say that. And what will happen 9 times out of 10 where I go, that's really interesting, where does that come from? Is they'll start to tell you a story, and it will start this way. Well, my dad, and then it will carry on. Now, sometimes that works for them. And it is the act of working hard that is important to them. But so some of them, they go, actually, that's something I was brought up to believe to be right. Actually, what I like is the outcomes of that work. And if I don't have to work hard to get them, then my God, I'm in a happy place. So it's about that sort of dipping to go, what's under that? So McKinsey, the consultants, they have something called the 5 whys, which I just love because it's like being a kid, isn't it? Why? Yeah, but why? Yeah, but why? So my role is not to be embarrassed about other people starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable when I go, yes, but why is that? I'm gentle, I'll be kind. But that sort of, that balance between, sorry, I've just seen a magpie, so I'm saluting in your
It's fine. We're like, it's, you know, that might be suspicion, you know, that might be a superstitious, that might be a belief. It doesn't matter.
I know, but I can't not, so I'm really sorry.
Fair.
That fascinates me. And I think for me, where I really kind of started to grow was when I moved beyond beliefs and I moved into the values that I have chosen, which are true. So the phrase I use about values is dig deep, aim high, be true. Because you need to really dig in to get what matters. You need to really, really dig, and you need to be prepared to shift things to one side and dig a bit harder, and that hurts. You've got to aim high. For me, this is about what will I do? You know, at the end of the day, where I live by my values, I'm going to, another hand gesture, pat myself on the back. Or if I navigate something that's tricky, I'm going to pat myself on the back. and then be true. There's literally no point choosing things that aren't in some way connected to you as a personality, you as a product of your upbringing. So as long as you do those three things, then you're in a very happy spot indeed for the rest of your life. And you have no more imposter syndrome, by the way. That's key. I haven't had imposter syndrome in years.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of that, because it's genuinely fascinating to me and interesting. Of all of the episodes, you're the first person to say who's impacted, that you've impacted yourself the most. And I think that within itself is again, and it's lovely to hear a woman say something really positive about themselves in that way, with no sense of ego. There's still humility. There's still you've got stuff to grow and develop, but it's just, love it, love it, love it. And question number 2, what keeps you motivated in what you do?
So the sense that I'm just getting started. And I think if I ever stop having that feeling, then I'll be very worried, because I've always had that sense. But my God, I've really got it now. And literally, I am just...
watch out, world, Erika is coming.
Well, I hope so. That's certainly my plan. So there's a sense that I'm just getting started. But also, I have an expression I use, which is everything good should flourish. And that was something that I really brought to what I did before. So I had a brand consultancy, brand communications agency. And for me, because it was something that we owned, I didn't have funding coming in. I didn't have lords and masters that I had to sort of be satisfying. So we would choose to work with clients who we felt were good and we felt deserved to flourish. And that, that veered from tiny little startups to big things like Bollinger and Morocco. So, it was like a real mix, but it was like everything good should flourish. And what I bring in now to this work that I'm doing now around values, around purpose, around vision, around culture, around, people's personal growth, around organizations, is if there's good in there, we're going to find it. I can't stand the term hidden gems. I don't want there to be hidden gems, but it's quite interesting if you can dig in and uncover them. If there's something good in there, we're going to find it and it's going to flourish. You're going to make that happen. You are, not me. It's not for me. I hate the word empower. I can't bear the word empower, because it's not my power to give. It's yours. I can help you discover it. And if you find that power, then you empower yourself. But empower feels like a donation, and I disagree with that wholeheartedly. So that sense of everything good should flourish, and I'm just bloody starting. That's what's keeping me going.
I love that. And it's just that thing, isn't it? It's like the kid discovering a whole new way of playing with Lego, and then you break it all up, and then it's like, brilliant, I get to build something else. And it's that thing. And I think you're so right. When I think even when people have been tarnished and they're at a place where they're sad, or perhaps the culture has become toxic, fundamentally, I truly believe that 90% of people are just trying their best. Now, of course, you've got the narcissists, the sociopaths, hence the 10% that we can't do anything about, right? But, quite often when you are met with someone that's a light giver like you are, and somebody goes like, I'm just going to shine the light, you then have a choice to then step back in and go, oh yeah, this was why I joined the company. This is why. So everything can shift, everything can change. And how privileged are both you and I that we get to just be in a space and create the space to hold people so that they can do that for themselves.
Yeah, and there's another thing about it, because obviously we've talked about clarifying and articulating personal values, but equally clarifying and articulating corporate values. That gives people the opportunity to go, oh, I get it. I get why I don't feel I fit in. It's not for me. So there's that phrase, which is sales is the art of getting to know quickly. I say values is the art of getting to know quickly. If your values are not divisive, then they're not really values. They should allow people to go, oh, okay. Do you know what? I think I'm going to move on.
Yeah, right.
And it's in a supported way.
And it's so fascinating as well. I remember, this is years ago, I remember going in, and there was a very small organisation. I've been helping the management team working out what they wanted to do and stuff. And they were like, oh, we should do some values stuff. And I was like, okay. And I said, but let's just see where everybody sits in terms of looking outward first and foremost. And so we got like things like Tesco and John Lewis and Apple and I think it was like Google and Samsung. And we got their brand name and we got their values and just did a really simple quiz. It was like literally a 5-minute quiz.
Interesting.
And the only one that this small team, I think there's about 40 of them, the only one that got the values with the organization that they got right was Apple. Every other one, they didn't match it.
I have a phrase which is like, values are like horses' teeth. So you can age a horse by the length of its teeth.
I mean, I didn't, but I love it.
Yeah. I can date values because if they're not the right values, they will have words that were being bandied around in a fashionable sense at the time that they were created. And some of those words are entirely appropriate for the organisation. But if you've got a whole bunch of them, then that's not your value.
No, and also that's the thing, and that's why I love your work, because your work has depth, it has understanding, it really, as you said, digs deep. Whereas quite often I think companies go, and here's our corporate value, and everyone goes, huh? That is not what you are. Those are some words that some brand team came up with that nobody connects with. So that's the opposite. Oh, very good, very good. Question number 3, how do you play?
Now, I love this because this is the one where you find something out.
Cool.
So we're going to have to start at where this comes from. So
all right.
I am dutiful. I am hugely responsible. I am diligent. I can be very intense in terms of the fact that when I get my teeth into something, I'm going to dig and dig and dig. And so people have said to me, well, you're very intense, which is fine. I don't mind. It's not criticism. But sometimes that means you do lose play and you do lose fun. Anyway, on the night of my 40th birthday, this is a story. I was asleep. And I woke up at, I think, the time I was born, or maybe that's an embellishment I've created since, with this loud voice in my head saying, Duchess of Waveney. And I was like, what? Duchess of Waveney. So I got up and I looked on my phone, and the only Duchess of Waveney I could find was a very, very incidental character in a P.G. Wodehouse novel. She was literally a guest at a cocktail party. That was it. So the Duchess of Waveney doesn't exist. And I was like, well, where did that come from? And I had this image in my head. She is a big woman and she wears green velvet over her ample bosom and she's fun. The Duchess of Waveney, the number one characteristic of the Duchess of Waveney is she is top fun. She's naughty. She does what she wants to do. She's brave. She's scurrilous. She's a terrible gossip. All of this stuff. Ever since that, when I know I'm being a little too serious and maybe a little too cautious, I'm never cautious in business, by the way. This is all about the stuff apart from business. I'm like, come on, let's get the Duchess of Waveney out. So the first thing she did is on my birthday, we've got a sandbar. I live by the sea, and there's a sandbar that you can get to at low tide. And I'd never dared go out to it because I was like, oh, what if? What if? I went out to it on my birthday. I swam out to the sandbar, and it wasn't that hard to get there, actually, and I got back perfectly comfortably, so I'm a reasonably strong swimmer. The Duchess of Waveney did that. So ever since, the Duchess of Waveney has directed me towards fun. I love her. In fact, my husband bought a boat because he was going to sail across the Atlantic. He didn't eventually do it, and he called her the Duchess of Waveney, Dow for short.
I love this so much. Thank you so much. And it's, you see, what's really interesting, and regular listeners that have come from clowning around will know, obviously, I'm a clown, right?
Yeah.
And within the craft of clowning, clowns are, in essence, a part of us. So when people ask me, so how do you have 3 clowns? I'm like, well, we all demonstrate different parts of us, whether we're talking to our husband, talking to our partner, to our kids, to our friends. It's still us, but it's different parts of us driving our bus, right? A clown is merely another part of us. So Orange, who is the clown that I know the best, is the kindest and the most joyful part of M. But It's definitely Orange. It's not me, it's Orange. And Orange helped me write my book and was in my last show. So what it sounds like the Duchess is for you, she's one of your clowns. And she gives you just that little bit more permission of like, yeah, I'm going to go swim and do that. Yeah, I'm going to go and do that. And it's such a beautiful thing because also it's that you've now got that thing of what would the Duchess do?
Yeah,
the Duchess would go and do that. So yeah, I love that. That's made this clown very happy. So thank you for that. That's so joyful. Question number 4. What's one action that you've taken in the last year that's really impacted you in your life?
Oh, in the last year.
So I know I've added that. Yeah.
I had a brave action. Would I be allowed to go back to...
Of course.
Right. So I thought lots of things, because I have to say, when I leap, I tend to leap big. So actually, it's quite nice to do this, because I was like, oh, that was brave. Oh, and that was well. Anyway, go through all of that. The thing I'd like to share is I was utterly petrified of what one might call public speaking, because that's what it's generally called. I mean, I was physically incapable of doing it because I would get disco legs. All of those sort of swirling, deep, massive, colossal, huge anxiety. And what do I do for a living now?
Speak.
I love it. Oh my God, I love it. But I tell you what happened was I had my company for about 5 years, and I had done workarounds. So I would not go up on a stage, and I was really guilty about it because I was like, I should be out there marketing this business. This is when I had the agency. But I'd do workarounds. So I'd sit on panels, I'd get out there, but I would never stand up on my own. Even now thinking about it, I can feel the leg feeling I used to get. Anyway, there was an initiative in our region. I live in the east of England, which was about improving the opportunities for young people who came from, less supported backgrounds, let's say. And I was invited to go and be a voice of business, which was about connecting business with schools and with young people to show them paths that they might not hear about. And I was like, do you know what? This isn't about me. I can't. It was all right when I was only letting my business down. But now I can't So what did I do? I did hypnotherapy. I had help from a professional speechwriter. I practiced it literally 100 times just into a laptop like this, recorded again and again and again and again until I was bored of it. And I kept going. And I got there, and a dear, dear friend of mine who I didn't really know at the time, she came up to me and she spotted something. I mean, she held me by the shoulders and she said, you know what I do when I'm scared like you, Erika? And she's never scared, we think. She said, I root myself. And she said, just root yourself. Whatever you feel like, just root yourself in the ground. Oh, and I had a brilliant deck as well. I had slides which were just big, bright, gorgeous images. No words, just big, beautiful, bright, gorgeous images. I considered what I wore. So if I was shaking, you wouldn't be able to see. All of these sort of things you had to do. Stood up. I'm not joking. I got a standing ovation from a 20-minute speech. Now, 20 minutes, I couldn't do 20 minutes because it's too short. To say. And I didn't stop being scared straight away, but I realised I could do it if it mattered enough. And, people still come up to me, people locally still come up to me and go, that was really good. It's a long time ago now. That was really good. And it really made a difference. And it really started to turn the dial because people saw something they hadn't seen before. And it was a different way of doing it. And funnily enough, for me, out of that, having to break that, because it wasn't about me, that sense of duty, it wasn't about me. I had to break it. Now what am I doing? I'm going out and making a living. This is where I want to really push, is I want more and more speaking engagements because I want to be out there. For me now, the purpose is the values revolution. So I'm launching the values revolution because I want everyone to have access to their values because I know the difference they make. I want to be everywhere talking about this stuff. So what a change.
I mean, firstly, massive kudos. Secondly, isn't it interesting that it quite often takes something where it's suddenly not about us in order for something to shift, right? And, if I kind of look at myself where I am in my own sort of parallel way, I've realised that the more Stroud is known, the more Laugh, Think, Play, the charity can grow.
Yeah.
And so I genuinely now know because, and the charity is launching in 2026, but I now have this very clear driver of, okay, it is time for me to do more telly. It is time for me to do more radio because it will be easier to fundraise for Laugh, Think, Play the more famous I am. Yeah. And there is a thing where you just go, because now it's in service, I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And
you've
there's that
push beyond the awkwardness, haven't you? Which is like, oh, little me. But actually, if it has a purpose, so I'm the same as you, the values revolution, I am spearheading it. It's not mine. I mean, it is mine, but it's not going to be mine. It's going to be as many people as I can get it out to. But that's not going to happen if I'm not out and about. You've got to do it.
And it's that shift away because I've always, I've done fairly well and got a fairly good name, but it's that thing of going, actually, now because it's bigger than me, so it's not about, it's not like, come and beat Erika and she can come work with your senior leadership team. Of course she does, and of course she is available for it. But actually what you're wanting to do is be able to access people that wouldn't be able to afford you to go in, and then they then get, those options to change. And it's that thing where you go, oh, right, okay, cool. So I need to do more of that. And as soon as that happened, honestly, I remember and I've done shows off the West End, I've done all of this sort of stuff, but I went, oh, okay, I now have to play the game, not for Stroud, but I have to play the game in order to get the outcomes that we can help 1 million people.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So congratulations. And I mean, I'm in. However I can help that, I think is an awesome thing. So yeah.
You're not going to regret saying that, young Em.
Oh, no. Well, you can call me young every day. So I'm like, I'm so there. If you call me young, I'm like, I'm in it. This is good. So question number 5, but no one's counting on the questions anyway. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, I'm going to give you quite a boring response here because it is basically exercise, good food, reading, meditating, good sleep, if I can, if I'm not too excited to sleep, and protecting my family space. And my family is quite, it's a created family, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have any of my ancestors left, including my parents. They've all gone. So
Right.
I've got a family of husband, son, and 2 stepdaughters, one of whom I brought up, who are all very different. And I treasure the lot of them. And you know what's brilliant is they treasure me. And that's... And the other thing is just staying excited. I don't ever want to be bored. So, just keeping that sense of excitement.
It's so interesting because I just did on one of my socials, I just did a post and started off doing the post with me cleaning my teeth, right? And I consciously chose to do it with me cleaning my teeth because I was like, clean your teeth, face it, it's quite a dull chore that we all do at least twice a day, right? But we do it so that our teeth stay okay and so that we can carry on, having good dental hygiene, everything else like that. And I do think quite often with that whole idea of how we look after ourselves, some of it is, it's like, yeah, I meditate. Yeah, I do exercise. Yeah, I eat good food most of the time. Yeah, I sleep well most of the time. But it's actually acknowledging and speaking that out loud, because the thing is that for my listeners that haven't come across you in your work, it's really easy for them to go, oh, look, she does this, she does that. But actually they found none of that could happen if you weren't taking care of you.
Oh,
and that last bit of going, actually, and the time that you have with your family is sort of sacred. That's the bit that quite often entrepreneurs can lose because they're like, I've got to go and do this. I've got to go and work. And actually, that's the thing that will fuel you. And that's the thing that keeps you balanced and grounded while you're going off and doing all of that. So I don't think it's a boring answer. I think it's a truthful and very important answer, even though the act of going, oh, look at me eating my vegetables again. I am so good. It might not be the most exciting, but it's how you keep being you. So it's really important. So thank you for that. And then finally, what have you been thinking about in the last couple of days? What's been mooching your head?
The future. As I said, I've had this time at my desk where I've actually been able to go, right, I have time. So what am I going to focus on? I'm going to focus on these things. Okay, I'm going to get that done, get it done. Focusing on the future. Because a lot of what I do is being with people and being very, very, very present in their present. And because, I am responsible for the quality of their experience and the outcomes that they get. So I'm very, very conscious of that. So a lot of time I am really having to discipline myself to being 100% in the present. By my natural space, where I am most comfortable, is leaping ahead. Onward, ever onward is one of the phrases I use. It's not a value, but it's one of the phrases I use. So what I've been thinking about in the last couple of days is the future. The bits of the future I can control. This is the other thing I have to say. There are elements of the future that are making me slightly nervous at the moment, in common with, I think, lots of other people. But the bits of my future that I can control and the people around me who I can impact, that's been getting me terribly excited over the last few days.
I love that. And I think that's a really key distinction, because something that I was talking about yesterday, I did a talk yesterday, and one of the things that I said to this particular room of, and they were all HR directors from around the world, was every single one of us can take charge of ourselves in our world that is doing lots and lots of many different things. And if we all take charge of ourselves, that has a ripple effect, and then that has a ripple effect. But if we're not looking after ourselves and making these choices, i.e. thinking about the future, what impact are you going to have? How are you going to go out and start and be the figurehead of this values revolution? All of that stuff. If you don't create that time to ponder it and think about it, it might not happen.
Yeah.
And so it is really important, and in a world where governments are changing, environment's doing whatever it's doing, you do just have to kind of go, for me, how do I take charge of me? And then that's how we can change the world, right? So it's all very good.
Yeah, and that's where it comes from. I mean, the proposition I have about the values revolution is that, in a world where trust is increasing, I'll get that out right. In a world where trust is seemingly in shorter and shorter supply, where do you look to for the answers? You've got to look into yourself. So that's actually what has created the values revolution.
I love that. Look into yourself to find the answers. I can't think of a better way of ending this, but how can lovely people who are like, she's amazing, how do I find out more? Where do they go? What do they look on the thing called the interweb? How do they find you?
So I'm all over LinkedIn like a rash, as you know, because I just can't resist. So I have all these planned posts, and then I get a little excited about something and stick that up as well. So I'm all over LinkedIn. My website is erikaclegg.com. So ErikaClegg.com. So they can find me there. But as I say, the best place to find me is LinkedIn, where I'm busy expressing my opinions morning, noon and night.
And beautifully done as well. So it's all good. So I'll make sure that all of those contact details are, of course, in the notes. And Erika, as I knew it was going to be a joy, it has been. I knew I could talk to you for hours, but I'm aware of obviously your time and, of course, my good listeners' time. And thank you so much for coming on the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. It has been a joy. Thank you very much, lovely soul.
I've had a wonderful time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Top fun. Thank you.
Erika, finding answers for yourself. I think it was that last piece that has really landed with me. And there's just that thing, isn't there, there are lots of people that talk about values and, values and what do they mean and how do we have them and what does that look like? And the thing about Erika is because she's really done her own work on this particular piece around values, you can feel it. And I remember when I first met her, it was like, yeah, she stands out because she's got such clarity. And I think there's something super brave about going, this is the one thing that I want to be known for. I think there's something really challenging in a world where lots of us, myself included, can be known for lots of different things. Owning that this is where I want to be and that feels right. Well, it's a testament to our work, isn't it? It's a testament to that. And honestly, if you are curious about working out your values and what they look like, etc., do have a look at her stuff because it's all super, super interesting. And I'm just going to leave you with this. If you just took this moment to think, what's the one thing that right now is so important to me? Are you creating enough time for that one thing? Be that family, be that relationship, be that play. Are you finding enough time to do that thing that's really important to you? Because as I'm about to release this will be just creeping towards December. What is that? I know within the majority of Western cultures, December becomes all about Christmas, and that busyness can massively, massively sort of take us all over with like, oh, I've got to have drinks, got to do Christmas dinners, got to do Christmas parties and stuff. And so just take this moment to go, what's the one thing that really matters to me? And give yourself just a moment to go, how do I make sure there's enough time for that? What is it that I really value? So there you go. There's another episode of the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. Thank you ever so much for listening. And do please tell your friends about it, to like and subscribe and all those good things. And I look forward to catch up with you next week. Thanks for listening.